Well, chapter 12, now the Lord had said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. Now, notice there in verse 1, it said, had said. We actually have in the teaching of Stephen in Acts chapter 7, verse 2, he clarifies this, and he said, brethren and fathers, listen, the God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia. That's the Ur-Chaldees. That would be Nazareth, Iraq. If you look at a map, it's just down below Baghdad. Before he dwelt in Haran. We see in Isaiah 51:2, it says, look to Abraham your father and to Sarah who bore you, for I called him how? Alone, and blessed him and increased him. So we get a picture here where we go back up, and it's talking about Terah and his three sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran died but left a son by the name of Lot. And in the tribal community of the Eastern world to this day, they could not imagine separating as a tribe. When you go to the Arab countries today, a village you go into, or a town even, sometimes it could be thousands of people. They are all related, and you stick out like a giant sore thumb because they know everybody in that community, and they know you're not from that community. And you think, oh yeah, I'm just blending right in, and you're not blending in at all. And so, but the idea of somebody leaving and going and living in another tribal community, even if it's over the hill, it just wouldn't happen, even to this day. You stay with your family. And if you don't have a place to live, no problem. They just rip the roof off and add another story. And if you go through, most of the time, they're always in the middle of building another story. And so their houses always look sort of half done, but it makes total sense to them. Looks a little undone to us, but they're just, hey, my daughter's going to get married one of these days. My son's going to get married. So I'm just in the process of working on this. And so God said to Abraham something that just probably went completely against the grain, and that was to leave your family. Huge, huge. Later, when a guy would come to say to Jesus, hey, let me first go and bury my father. And Jesus said, let the dead bury their own dead. You come and follow me. What he actually was saying is, I need to go stay with my dad till he dies, make sure my mom's taken care of. If he was the one to inherit all things, let me get the business going and get everything running. And once everybody in the family's taken care of, then I can now follow you. And Jesus was saying, like God called Abraham, cut and go. And from what we can see in the line of things, Abraham's mentioned first. So it appears that he's the oldest child. So God was asking Abraham to do something that was huge, difficult. Now, we've been covering the lineage, and yes, Abraham's from the righteous limb of Shem. But just in case you say, well, Abraham was over in the Ur-Chaldees in this pagan culture, but evidently his family was walking righteously, and that's how God was able to speak to Abraham. No, Joshua chapter 24, verse 2 and 3, it tells us there, Joshua said to all the people, thus says the Lord God of Israel, your fathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham, the father of Nahor, dwelt on the other side of the river in olden times. And notice, what did they do? They served other gods. According to Jewish tradition, Terah actually made idols. He was an idol maker. And it says in Joshua 24:3, I took your father Abram from over the other side of the river. So it appears that Abraham has probably been uncomfortable for some years now. And he told his dad, Terah, God's called me to go. And Terah's like, okay, I'll stay with you, son. Let's go. Load up a lot. Load up, everybody. Come on, to Nahor. We're all going. God's called Abraham to go. That's all of us are going. And so they start heading. They get about several hundred miles away. They get to a place that later is called Haran, and they get stuck there. And God had been saying to Abraham, what? Get out. I love it in Joshua 24:3. He says he took him. It seems that it's getting more and more strong, where Abraham is coming to the place going, it was difficult, but now I am miserable by not obeying God. Have you ever been in that place? It's hard to obey God, but then God, because he loves you, makes it harder to disobey him. The heavy hand of God just gets heavier and heavier and heavier until you are just so crazy miserable. You're just like, okay, God, yes, Lord. And I know that's the best. It's just everybody, everything to put you first in this area, to stop these relationships, to say no to that family, to say no to those friends, to say not going there for that weekend or that night, not communicating there anymore, whatever it might be. To honor God with the first, the best, the top. And in essence, Abraham's is having to say this: obeying God is first. It doesn't matter about my finances and my livelihood and my home and my homeland. I'm leaving. And the idea was he was leaving with nothing. That was what God originally wanted. The idea was him and his wife Sarah with nothing, just going. But as it turned out, his dad died, and he got all these people and servants and nephews, and he ends up with this giant caravan, and it's going to be a curse to him because he didn't bless, and it's going to be a curse to them that they didn't let Abraham cut and go. And so it is a powerful thing when we just listen. Just listen there, where it's now been communicated. God spoke to me. Kids, Abraham's talking to Isaac and the grandkids and saying, hey, guys, listen. God told me, get out. To leave my family, to leave my father's house specifically. I didn't do it. And I'm going to take you to a land you know not of. There's the faith right there. I love that concept of God just calling us by name. Later, on many occasions, it would be discussed. Why did God choose Abraham? He said, not because you were great, not because you're many people, not because... One thing, one reason. Because I set my love upon you. Period. Well, what kind of answer is that? We find in John 6:44, Jesus talking about this same idea with us. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me, what? Draws him. That's a strong word, where they're dragging the net into the boat. There's other instances where they're dragging things along. It's the word drag. And that's definitely what's going on here. Abraham is being dragged, and his dad's hanging on, and his brothers and his nephews, and God's getting him there. And I love the fact that we are weak. We are in the midst of a sinful world, and God's calling us until, the Apostle Paul, he stops him on the road to Damascus, and he's blinded, Our God just crashes in and begins saying, Samuel, Samuel. Who is that? Eli, somebody called my name. Just say, Lord, here I am. I just love when God just comes out of the clear blue and shocks everybody, especially you. I think Paul was more amazed that he became a Christian than anybody was amazed that Paul was a Christian. But here's this guy who's just in the middle of an idolatrous culture, and God calls him, get out, and we see God dragging him. And he says, everybody who comes to the Father has been called, dragged unto me by the Father. And in John 15:16, Jesus can't make it clearer than this. You did not choose me, but I chose you. Oh, Spurgeon would say, let's just stop and soak in the sun of election. Let's just all warm up and get a tan from the bright glow of that God has called us by name. We didn't choose him. He chose us. There's something so amazingly healing about that, isn't there? To be chosen. Now, you may be here tonight and saying, well, I'm not a Christian. I haven't asked the Lord. I'm not following the Lord. I haven't asked the Lord to be the Lord of my life. So this really hurts. Because you're saying God hasn't called me to himself. God hasn't chosen me. Well, just ask the Lord into your life. And as soon as you do, you'll find out God chose you before the foundations of the world. Well, I don't want to submit my life to God. That's because you weren't chosen. But that hurts. Well, then choose God, and you'll find out you were chosen. Well, I don't want to choose God. It's because you're not chosen. It's a simple thing. For all of us who are believers, we know, don't we? We know how wicked and stubborn and just selfish and self-centered. And the fact that we turn to God, it is a miracle of miracles of miracles. Only God can get a hold of us this way and bring us to himself. God says, you didn't choose me in John 15. I chose you. And more than that, I appointed you. I ordained you that you should go, bear fruit, that your fruit should remain, and whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. Ephesians 1, verse 3 through 6. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in heavenly places in Christ. We just got to, by faith, grab a hold of them. They're already been given to us before the foundations of the world. Just as he chose us in him before the foundations of the world, that we should be holy, without blame, before him in love, having predestined us to adoption as sons by Jesus Christ himself. How? Just like with Abraham, according to the good pleasure of his will, to the praise of the glory of his grace by which he has made us accepted in the beloved. Satan loves to try to steal away this precious gem by telling us, just like we feel we're stuck with us, and we feel like our family's stuck with us, and our friends are stuck with us. God is stuck with us, and he's got buyer's remorse, you know. Not at all. He's already seen you, as later it's saying in Ephesians 2, seated together with him in heavenly places. He has seen that one day you're going to be holy, without blame, before him in a brand new body, linked with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the Apostle Paul, and we're all dancing around, singing Jewish music, kicking our legs. Ya da 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 da. You, oh Gabriel, come on over. Woohoo! You know, we're in heaven having a great time. He's already seen it. He's not stuck with anything. It's his good pleasure to work with your stubbornness. It's his good pleasure to wrestle with your will. It's always funny where parents who are parents with teenagers for the first time come and tell you, going, man, my kid, yeah, it's a typical teenager. But you know, you don't know. It's like, yeah, they're all like that. They're little monsters for a while. I don't know why. But yeah, but man, God's not surprised, is he? When we're 13 and 15 and 18 and 21, he's already counted the cost before the foundations of the world. He's grabbed a hold of you with an eternal grip. I chose you. I called you. I appointed you. I have plans. You're going to bear good fruit now. That fruit's going to remain. You're going to be holy without blame before me. It's my privilege, God says, to do this in you. And you're going, your privilege, God? Yes, it's to my pleasure. It's the joy of seeing my grace at work that I've done this. There's no regret. There's no sorrow. There's no seller's remorse with God. He's just thrilled that he's called you unto himself. And I don't know about you, but as a Christian, you get awful discouraged sometimes. And when we get in the midst of this world of free will and how difficult it can be, and we just got to sort of step back and just look at the election. Charles Spurgeon talked about it, how we're like walking at the bottom of a mountain. And we're out in the fields and we're working and pulling weeds and plowing and planting and harvesting and we're trying to make sure the plant's got enough water and we're taking care of the field. We're working and getting fruit, and we just get exhausted sometimes and we just got to stop and just ignore the valley and just look at the mountains. And look at the snow-topped mountains in the far, far distance. I grew up in Visalia at the bottom of the Sequoia in Yosemite. There's some of those clear days. I mean, you'd think you could see all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. And just the mountains, and then there's a mountain behind the mountain, and a mountain behind the mountain, behind the mountain, and more snow, and it's breathtaking. There is just something about seeing in the distance. I know even now, sometimes my brain just gets so tight. I've just got to go to Sunset Cliffs and just stand and just look as far as my eye can take it into the vast ocean. And it's just healing to just look at distance and vastness. Or to go out in the middle of the desert where there's no light pollution and just the sky, it's like a sheet it's like I had no idea there was that many stars to even look at, and all the shooting stars, and it's just I've got to get this is what predestination and election is. It's like just taking a look before time began, time going on and on from eternity to eternity. God is sovereign. There's nothing out of his control. Satan is evil. He's roaring about, but he's on God's chain. At any point in time, God is in his perfect time. He's going to bind him up and throw him into hell. He can't touch us unless God's allowing it. And there's nothing that touches us that God doesn't have a plan to turn it around for good. And that's where we have to live. And Abraham, he's going to go through some very difficult times. He's going to go through decades of not seeing God's promises fulfilled that God said he was going to do. But it tells us in Romans 4 that he never staggered in unbelief, that he always believed what God said he would do, even though when you look at what Abraham knew about God at this point, it was almost nothing. God created the world. There was a flood with Noah. And then there's me. There really wasn't a whole lot of information. There wasn't a lot of light in Abraham's darkness. But he believed that what God said he would do, he was able to perform it. And that was enough for him. In 2 Timothy 1:9, who has saved us? Who has called us according to this holy calling, not according to our works, but according to his own purpose and grace, which was given us in Christ Jesus before time began. Isn't that awesome? We didn't get this motor started, and now we got to keep it tuned up and keep it gassed and keep it, and it's like, oh no, I gotta, it's like God started it. God's going to finish it. God's the one that created it. God's going to maintain it. He is our husband as the church, right? He's going to wash us. He's going to cleanse us with the washing of the water of his word, that he might present us before himself, holy, without blemish, spotless. It's on him. And when we start feeling like, oh, this burden, okay, I gotta go out somewhere, and I gotta be blessed and bless myself and bless others, and I gotta, I got this big responsibility. That's not what we see here. God said to Abraham, just listen to my voice. I'm going to do it. Notice what he says here. In verse 2, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you and curse him who curses you, and you and all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Do you see that? God is saying, I chose you. I appointed you. I, through you, am going to bear good fruit. I'm the one who began this good work. I'm going to complete it. I am the God who sanctifies you entirely in spirit, soul, and body. Faithful is he who called you, and he will bring it to pass. And it's just that point where we just stop and realize, yes, I need to walk respectfully before God. I need to get on the narrow road that leads to life. I need to hear him and follow him. But I can't make myself a blessing. I can't bear good fruit. I just need to abide in him, walk, come out. I'm going to go to a country you know not of. Just everywhere you put your foot, I'm going to give it to you. What do? Just listen to my voice and follow me. That's it. And that's, we need to just say, am I following God? If not, stop. You need to follow God. So everywhere you put your foot, you're blessed. And it's just abiding in him and his word abiding in you. And you just become a blessing. And as you are blessed by God, you are a blessing. Abiding, and then everybody eating of the fruit of the branches that's produced, not from the branches, but from the vine itself. God's done it. And he says, it's interesting in contrast to chapter 11. They rallied themselves. They called themselves. Man's like, we are going to make ourselves. We're going to make our name great. And then you got this little nobody guy in the Ur Chaldees. And God's just like, dude, I'm calling you. Why? Because I just set my love on you. That's it. Why is that? You'll find out when you get to heaven someday. Till then, I'm going to bless you and all your descendants and all the families of the earth. That you're going to be blessed. Come and follow me. And so you see the three things here. God says that I'm going to, number one, I'm going to make you a great nation, a great people. Number two, I'm going to bless you. And number three, I'm going to protect you. There's security in me. Whoever curses you, I'll curse them. Isn't that really all we want? I mean, if we're living in a little cabin in the woods, if we know that we are doing all that we're supposed to be doing, pleasing God, isn't that enough? Godliness with contentment's great gain, right? So Abraham and Sarah, they're just in a tent. They're pilgrims. And they'd never build a city. They had never build anything great. They're just wandering around in this tent, but yet they're being blessed. God's making them a great people, even though when Abraham would die, it was just a handful of people. He knew that one day God had promised they'd be a great nation, even though he didn't see it. He knew God was going to do it. And then there's that security, that protection that God says is there as you follow me. It's interesting that Barnhouse, a great quote, he has this: when the Greeks overran Palestine and desecrated the altar in the Jewish temple, they were soon conquered by Rome. When Rome killed Paul and many others and destroyed Jerusalem under Titus, Rome soon fell. Spain was reduced to a fifth-rate nation after the insurrections against the Jews. Poland fell after the pogroms. Hitler's Germany went down after its orgies of anti-Semitism. Britain lost her empire when she broke her first faith with Israel. And it is amazing to look at the contrast of us, the first nation to recognize Israel as a nation, just soared. Britain did everything they could to persecute Israel as a nation, and they just, the sun never set on the English Empire. Now it sets really quick on the English Empire. They don't have Africa or India or the rest of the world anymore. They lost it all. They were reduced. But we today say on the news, our number one ally in the world is Israel. You ever heard that on the news? Quite a bit. And I have to look at it and go, we are just unusually blessed. Not because we have more oil or more natural resources or better education or the best location. There is just an incredible, unique blessing on us as a nation. And it's God. It's that simple. And one of those reasons, I believe, is because we have honored Israel. God has blessed us because we have blessed the children of Abraham. Well, going on here in Genesis 12. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. So he finally got it. 75 years old, young. I might point out something rather important. Colonel Sanders was 75 when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. 75 is nothing, guys. So if you're thinking, man, I'm 50 years old and I can't be a missionary now. I'm 60 years old. I can't. You know what? God's ways are not our ways, are they? Moses was 80 years old when he started. Well, Abraham was 75. We'll find out later that Sarah 65. And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son. What? And all their possessions that they had gathered, the peoples whom they had acquired in Haran. And they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. So it's very subtle. God said to Abraham, leave your what? Family. And here he's like, well, that can't mean Lot. His dad died. I've sort of taken over. I'm really his dad. You know what? He's going to curse Lot. And Lot's going to be cursed by him. They're gonna have to separate in a way that literally completely destroys Lot's family. And now you see they were down in Haran. Yeah, they were prosperous. They made money down there or whatever. Now they got all these servants with them. That's not a blessing. That's a responsibility. When God's telling you to live in a tent and to walk and keep traveling and not to stop, but just to keep traveling, what's the last thing you want? A bunch of stuff, right? But that's what they ended up with. It could have been so simple. I think, what's God's required of you, a man? But to do justly, to love mercy, walk humbly with your God. We don't need all the extra baggage of religion and all these do's and don'ts and get free, man. Just follow Jesus, obey Jesus. Live in freedom. Don't have all the baggage with you. And here's Abraham. We're going to find all this baggage does not help him whatsoever. Well, in verse 6, Abraham passed through the land of the place of Shechem as far as the Tinebeth tree of Moreh, and the Canaanites were in the land. Then Lord appeared to Abraham and said, to your descendants I will give this land. And there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. So he wasn't able to build cities, but he did build altars. And notice where he built. He moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, the house of God, and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai, heap of ruins, on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. So Abraham knows very little about God at this point. Excuse me. Gotten this cold, I think, 3 times this year. But so he's realizing God's called me. I'm trying to figure out who this God is. I need to spend time with him. And he's there with Sarai, but now he's got all these extra parts moving. But he finally gets to the place, he gets the tent, and where does he sit? Between the house of God and the world. The heap of ruins. Isn't that where we live? We're trying to build an altar and worship God, and we're in the middle of the tug of war. We're in the world, we're not supposed to be of the world. But we're always getting in the murk of the world, we're too close to Ai. Get over, try to get to the Bethel, but we can't stay there either. Build a monastery and let's all live in it, and we'll make it bigger so we can have fields and grow our own food and get our own water, and we'll just all pray all day. And the monastery thing didn't work either. We're supposed to be right in the middle of it all, but yet calling on the name of the Lord in the midst of it. And Abraham journeyed, going on still towards the south. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to dwell there. Again, it's a very subtle nuance. The last thing God called to Abraham was, come to a land that you know not of. Well, was Egypt a land that Abraham knew of? Everybody knows about Egypt. He didn't call him to go to Egypt, but Abraham took it on himself to go to Egypt because there was a famine in the land. But again, this is where we learn. I mean, even as we start going through the Old Testament, David, at times he's crawling out. We're going to see this coming Sunday morning. He crawls out and gets direction from God. But then later, he's like, he doesn't get direction from God. Joshua, he was one that learned how to just wait on the Lord. He stayed in the tabernacle and everybody left. But his first opportunity as general was to make the plan how to conquer Jericho, and the Lord stopped him. Said, Joshua, take off your shoes. This is holy ground. I'm the commander of the Lord's army. Here's what you're going to do. Okay, got it, Lord. You're the commander. I take your orders. They conquer Jericho. He turns around and says, 3,000 guys, go fight Ai. He goes up there, and they lose. And God said, I didn't say go fight Ai. There's sin in the camp. People took stuff from Jericho. That's why people died. And then they had to find out who took spoils from Jericho. So again, it's like, Joshua, didn't you get it? you got to wait on the Lord, get instructions from him. But Abraham didn't have that knowledge. He only knows that you work in circumstances. Figure out things by circumstances. Not to be spiritually minded, to appraise the situation. So you'll always find, no matter where you're at, you're going down when you go to Egypt. And here he's going down and to dwell there, for the family was in a severe land. So if he didn't have all these peoples and all this cattle and all these family members, it was just him and Sarai in a tent, he probably wouldn't have had that strong pull of feeling of responsibility to have this whole caravan of people. It would have just been him and Sarai, and they could have stayed there. But again, he complicated it by not specifically walking according to what God said, but sort of generally obeying God. Better than what he had done getting stuck in Haran, but still not fully in obedience, is he? And so it came to pass when he was close to entering Egypt, he said to Sarai, his wife, "Indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance, 65 years old, but you are hot." And Abraham knows. He knows. He's like, I know how these pharaohs are. This not just Egypt, but everywhere, man. They see a good-looking woman. They don't commit adultery or anything like that. They'll just kill me and take you. That's just their right. They'll come out and circle around us and head back to Egypt saying, hey, they got this kind of gold. They got these kind of servants. They got these kind of women. Okay, go back, kill that guy, bring her on into my harem. So Abraham knew, it's like I'm getting close and I'm seeing the various Egyptian scouts scouting us out. And oh boy, I didn't think through this. We can't backpedal and turn around and leave. We're already going down. There's a famine. I know they're going to kill me. Please, in verse 13, say you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake. Sounds a little cowardice, doesn't it? That I may live because of you. Save me, please, Sarah. Say you're my sister, please. I don't want to die. Abraham's he's got a ways to grow in his faith, doesn't he? Now, some try to say here, well, Sarah didn't lie because in chapter 20, verse 4, it does say they are brother and sister. They have the same dad, Terah. But guys, come on. He's being deceptive. Isn't deceptive being lying? I mean, there's a lot of ways to be deceptive. The guy, curfew, the teenage curfew is to be home by 11, and he comes in at 12, and why are you late? Oh, I got stopped by a train. I grew up in Central California. You could get stopped by a train sometimes for 45 minutes. That wasn't unusual, especially at night. Oh, okay. But of course, he only got stopped by a train for 5 seconds. He's late an hour because he was really late and tried to find a train or waited at the train track till he got a train so he could say the train stopped me. It's deception. It's a lie. It may be technically true to some degree, but what you're saying is a deception. So I need you to be deceptive. I need you to deceive the Egyptians. I need them to not think we are husband and wife, but simply brother and sister. That's the sense here. So it was in verse 14, when Abram went into Egypt, that Egyptians saw the woman, that she was very beautiful. The princes of Pharaoh also saw her and commended her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake. He had sheep and oxen and male donkeys and male and female servants and female donkeys and camels. My daughter brought up this last week. She's like, you remember when in Israel and that guy was telling you he'd give you 14 camels for me? And I think he was serious. I mean, he was really pushing hard. I said, yeah, he sure seemed serious. I don't doubt it, but I don't think he was. I don't think I could put 14 camels on our tour bus. But I wouldn't have taken less than 15 for you anyway. Don't worry about it. So they're bargaining. He's pushing hard. It's like, okay, Abraham, here's a bunch of sheep. Well, I don't know if I'm ready to give up my sister yet. Okay, here's some oxen. Really, let's just think about it a few days. Okay, here's some more stuff. No, really, I know she's beautiful, but she's only 65. Come on. You're robbing the cradle here. Let's just give it a little time, and okay, I'll give you more stuff, And it's just getting absurd. Until Abraham's got all of this wealth because he can't say yes to the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh doesn't want to insult him because she is amazingly beautiful. He keeps just heaping more and more stuff, and he's stuck. He doesn't know what to do, and so the Lord intervenes in verse 17. The Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this you've done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister? I might have taken her as my wife. Now therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go your way. So Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife and all that she had. all that he had. We're going to find out that Abram leaves there with more servants and gold and silver. He can't spend it. He's living in a tent. He can't live in a city. He can't build a city. He's going to end up carting this stuff around till he's 175 years old. You guys ever been on a hike? Have you ever taken like boxes and boxes of gold? You know, I mean, it could be rocks. It could be asphalt. It's irrelevant. You're just keeping it in a box, locked up, and lugging it around, setting it down, put up your tent, lug it around. It's ridiculous. The Bible said, naked we came into this world, naked we go out, right? I mean, it just amazes me when I think about these things, how people die, are murdered, will literally have a life expectancy of 35 to dig in the dirt to try to find a little diamond, or to go into cave systems that chances are they'll die and their kids after them will die, pulling out some gold. And then they take the gold, they melt it down, they put it in bricks, they stamp it, and then it goes to some warehouse and some bank, and they put it in some box down in a basement somewhere, or they put it in Fort Knox. I remember years ago when they were talking about all these tons and tons of gold bars in Fort Knox, and I just thought, am I the only one seeing how stupid this is? We mine it out of the ground to go hide it in the ground. Well, we made it a nice square now. So? It's just, and you think about how many things we have like that are so vain, that are so empty, that it's just stuff and more stuff and buying and selling, and it just gets wearisome. When really that which is going to satisfy, you can't even buy with money. The water you want, the milk you want, is given by God without cost. Just Sarah, Abram by themselves. Me and my wife the last few months, for the first time in 35 years, with just me and her again. It's pretty sweet. A little lonely sometimes, but not too much. I want a dog. She's thinking somehow she'll have to take care of it. But anyway, that's another story. But I just, Sarah and Abram, just themselves, God's protecting them. And Abram sees it full course at this point. Anybody curses you, I'm cursing them. They didn't have to have guards or protection or swords or spears. Just him and Sarai in a tent. Bethel on one side, Ai on the other, just worshiping the Lord. But we got all these camels, and there's a famine, and lots over here, and the guys we picked up from Haran over here, and they're upset because there's enough water in the creek, and there's not enough food, and well, let's go that way. I guess we got to go to Egypt, and now they're down in Egypt, and no, I'm sorry. Now they got more boxes of more rocks and more material and more servants and more cattle, and now they're leaving Egypt with a caravan 10 times bigger than they went there with. For what? What? How is it going to help him? He's supposed to be seeking the Lord simply with him and Sarai, but now they got more animals to take care of and making noise, more servants to distract them, more tents up. It's the opposite of what God had planned. And we're going to find that in the next chapter here coming up, that it all crashes and everybody gets cursed by this little sidetrack of not being directed by the Lord. Well, Lord, I want to end tonight in Hebrews chapter 11. In verse 8 here to 10, by faith Abram obeyed When he was called to go out of the place which he would receive as an inheritance, he went out not knowing where he was going. By faith he dwelt in the land of promise as in the foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac, Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he waited for a city whose foundation, whose builder and maker is God. But here's the cool thing. It goes down in verse 13 to say, these all died in faith, not having received the promises. Abraham never saw where he put his foot was the land given to him and his descendants. But having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. You know, that's different than meandering aimlessly. Well, Abraham just walked around. No, he was following God. He was a pilgrim. He wasn't a homeless person. He wasn't a vagrant. He was a pilgrim. It's a difference. For those who say, in Hebrews 11:14, for those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And truly, if they had called to mind that country from which they had come out, they would have had opportunity to return. So the temptation to go back to one of the greatest cities, according to archaeology, the 1920s says the Ur of Chaldees was a very modernized place with a lot of natural hot springs, and it was quite an elaborate place, a comfortable place to live. So had he ever called to mind to go back, he could have. And truly, if he had called to mind that to go back, which they came out, they would have an opportunity to return. But they desire a better, that is a heavenly country. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God. He has prepared for them a city. Isn't that awesome? What we're really craving, it's not a house with a white picket fence, with an incredible, $1,500 toilet that cleans itself. Marble cabinets and kitchens and running water. Our real craving is for a house in heaven, right? And that's where we need to fix our eyes on the things above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. And Lord, we thank you again as we are beginning this narrative of how you, in the midst of planet Earth, after the Tower of Babel, people are scattered, doing what's right in their own eyes. And Abraham wasn't a guy that was some righteous guy or some clued in guy or some radical obedient guy or some amazing guy with integrity and truthfulness. He was a sinner, a liar, a guy that in the midst of all of that, he heard your voice and he did obey you partially, and he would become one to obey you fully. But the entire time he had faith and never wondered, never staggered, never lacked in faith that you would do all that you said you would perform. Lord, give us all tonight that spirit of faith. And let us fix our eyes, Lord, not on things of this earth that can't satisfy, but that our reward in heaven with you, with the streets of gold, not necklaces of gold, but with you, Lord, touching you, being with the heavenly host, before your throne, before the glassy sea. Pray that we get thrones so we can just cast them at your feet and sing along with all the elders. You alone are worthy to receive glory and honor and power. In Jesus' precious name. And everyone said, amen, amen.